Hello, and welcome to Political Perspectives with the Democratic Party of Lee County. I am your host, AI Dr. Cindy Banyai. In this podcast, you will see the speech from U.S. Senate candidate Debbie Mucarsel-Powell from her visit to Dem HQ on February 12, 2024. She energized the crowd with her story and committed to lifting up Southwest Florida. Following her speech, you will see a special one-on-one interview she did with Jim Bloop, former newsman and candidate for Florida House 76. Don't miss this amazing episode of Political Perspectives, brought to you by Big Mouth Media.
While her mother worked double shifts as a home health care provider, Debbie worked at a donut shop to help her family make ends meet. After working her way through high school and college, Debbie worked for Florida International University's College of Health and Medicine. While at FIU, Debbie helped lead a program to expand access to affordable health care to more Floridians. Serving in Congress, Debbie fought to expand opportunity for every American. Debbie wrote the bill to expand seniors' Medicare Advantage coverage, and she worked with Republicans to provide economic relief to families and small businesses. She also secured $200 million for Everglades restoration. When Debbie was 24, she tragically lost her father to gun violence, and she has been a lifelong advocate for reducing crime and keeping guns out of the hands of dangerous criminals. She is Latina, and she's working for the people. Debbie Mucarsel-Powell.
Lee County Democrats, the energy, my God, I'm so excited. You need to come with me everywhere I go now that I'm traveling in the state of Florida. My name is Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. I am a mother of three. I am a former congresswoman. I am a Latina, and I am running to be your next U.S. Senator. I'm running because Florida families are struggling. They can't afford to pay their rent. They can't afford to pay for their medicine. But when you're one of the wealthiest senators in Washington, D.C., when you can put $64 million of your own money to buy the seat in the Senate, you have no idea what it's like to live on a fixed income, or to know the price of medicine. And it wasn't long ago, it was only in 2018, just a few years ago, that my community, with people like yourself in South Florida, sent me to represent them, and I became the first South American immigrant to ever serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. My journey, really. I'm in front of you because of my mother. That journey started 35 years ago when she decided, when she had the courage to leave everything behind in our home country of Ecuador, to bring my sisters and I here to this incredible country, knowing that she wouldn't be able to provide the opportunities that she would here in America. And I watched her work 12-hour shifts, go to school at night and on the weekends to learn English. I started working at a minimum wage job at the age of 15. And only in this country does someone like myself, with a mother that came here without knowing the language, can graduate from an incredible school, then become an associate dean at the medical school, and serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. And so many people would say that that's not possible, but I've always known that here, when you work hard enough, when you believe hard enough, anything is possible. And that's why I'm running, because of those opportunities, because they're disappearing so quickly for so many of us here in the state of Florida. And look, Rick Scott is a fraud, and Floridians know it. Okay? This is the man that when I was in Congress and wrote a bill to expand Medicare coverage, he wrote the plan to sunset, eliminate Medicare and Social Security. And while our families can't pay for their property insurance rates, this man wants to raise taxes for Florida families, for middle-class families. And that would send 40% of our seniors into poverty. Now, as a woman, you can imagine the outrage of seeing an extremist like Rick Scott push a national abortion ban at the federal level and support the most extreme ban, the 6-week abortion ban here in the state of Florida. You can bet that as a mom of 2 girls, I am not going to allow these politicians to take away the rights that I've been able to have living in this country and that you have fought for so long. And yes, gun violence is a very personal issue for me. I lost my father when I was 24 years old. I'm never going to forget the day that I was called out of my class. I was getting my master's degree at the time, and I was told that my father had been shot by a criminal with a gun. It was a moment that really changed my life forever. My father never met my husband. He was never able to meet my children. And I believe it is the greatest moral failure of politicians like Rick Scott that know that this is the main cause of death for children in America and do absolutely nothing. He voted against the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. He has an A+ rating from the NRA. Yeah. And he did just the minimum after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas because he knew he was in an election cycle, but now says nothing when they want to repeal that law and lower now the age to 18 for kids that can purchase weapons. That's totally unacceptable, and I can tell you this is going to be one of my main priorities in Congress, to make sure that we protect our children from gun violence. You, and I know that you know, that our democracy is on the line. We are facing one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. Rick Scott has sided with insurrectionists. He is siding and feeding into the hands of dictators in Russia and in China by being one of the main opponents of aid to our allies. As a Latin American, I have seen firsthand what it looks like when you have these authoritarian dictators try to use democratic institutions to get into power and then destroy those the very same institutions for self-gain, self-enrichment. We can't allow that. It is extremely dangerous. Rick Scott will do everything he can to remain in power, and that means being on the side of the dictator. Because we know, and he has said it publicly, that if he gets elected again, he will be dictator day one. He's not exaggerating. This is not a joke. This is serious. But look, I am filled with optimism, and I mean that because I've been traveling the entire state, and I have seen people like you everywhere I go, whether it's a blue county, purple county, or a red county. People that are tired of the division, of the politics, that are ready for change. I saw it when I was with Tom Keene, when we were able to flip that seat from a Republican 14-point shift. We won in Jacksonville, having the first Democratic mayor, the first woman Democratic mayor. Don't let anyone tell you that we can't do this in Florida. Because yes, every race is difficult, every race is close, but no race is unwinnable. And so I reject anyone that tells me that it can't happen here in the state of Florida. But I can't do this without you. And I'm here to tell you that I am going to need every single one of you with me in this journey. I know that we can beat him because he's never run in a presidential election. The man has never won by more than a percentage point. We're going to have abortion, access, and reproductive freedom on the ballot. And my commitment to you is that as I travel the entire state, which is an incredible state, I fall in love with it every single day, more and more. I'm seeing places that I hadn't seen before. And my commitment is that I'm going to do everything in my power to be able to represent you in Washington, D.C., because that's what you deserve. You deserve someone that's going to be fighting for you. And I hope that I have your commitment, that you're going to be with me every step of the way so that we can win together in November and finally get our state back on track. Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. All right. Debbie, it's so great to hear from you. It was a wonderful speech today, and your messaging is so right on target.
Well, you know, I happen to live in Florida, and I happen to see the struggles that we're all facing, and I've been talking to so many friends and families across the state that are facing the same issues, and I think that we need to remember that it doesn't matter whether you live in Miami or Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Fort Myers, we are all facing the same struggles, which is really high cost of living, property insurance rates that have skyrocketed, pricing people out of their homes. We don't have legislators or leaders that are dealing with the issues that we're facing with climate change. If anything, they want to ban the use of climate change, which is exactly what Rick Scott did when he was governor. Right. We have in Rick Scott someone that wants to sunset, eliminate Medicare and Social Security. He wrote that plan and raise taxes to middle-class families. So I know that I'm in this fight to make sure that I represent everyone that I have met and the people that I haven't met yet, and make sure that our children can grow up and in a state where we can lead in a lot of these issues and not fall behind.
Speak specifically about Southwest Florida. What do you think the primary issue is we're facing here, and how you'll address it?
Well, I mean, right now people are still suffering from the hurricane that passed last year. They're still rebuilding. These insurance companies haven't paid what they need to pay. These homeowners are still waiting for that to be able to rebuild their homes. Businesses, a lot of small businesses were left behind after that hurricane, and no one's talking about that. That's what we need to focus on. We need to continue to support Lee County, the communities in Lee County, the businesses in Lee County, and our economy relies on tourism. No one's going to come to a community that has been destroyed by a strong storm. So that's something that I am prepared to lead on when I'm in the Senate.
And in my campaign, that's what people talk about first. They come up to me and say, what are you going to do about insurance?
Look, first of all, let me just say that a lot of what we're facing right now with insurance started under Rick Scott when he was governor, when he took tens of thousands of dollars in contributions from insurance companies, brought them into the market. They made millions of dollars when we had no hurricanes, and then they left last year, leaving 100,000 property owners without insurance. We need to reinforce citizens, which is the last resort, but at the same time make sure that we spread the risk. And so when we bring these private insurers that may or may not lower the rates, it all depends which companies come back into the market, we need to spread that risk so that we can lower those premiums. But I think we're going to have to look at federally backed programs. Yes. It's not just Florida, it's Louisiana, it's Texas, it's
California,
the Carolinas, it's California. This is, climate change is affecting our entire country, and it's a national security issue.
How so?
Because if we can't protect our properties, if we can't build resilient infrastructure for our military bases, for example, our Coast Guard bases, it can affect our national security.
That's near and dear to me because I have a son in the military.
See?
And he's facing it. He's overseas. You know, this kind of thing.
I actually co-sponsored a bill when I was in Congress with a Republican from Alaska because I represented the Florida Keys, so that we can bring those investments to reinforce military bases and for them to have resiliency as we see these storms coming to our coast.
If you could say one thing to the people of Southwest Florida, what would it be?
Leave the politics behind. Look at the person that's going to work on the issues that matter most to you. Don't let the distractions of these attacks on culture wars, things that have nothing to do with your everyday life, to distract you from voting for the right person that has integrity, that will put you above anything else. That's what I would say.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everything you need?
That's great.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure appreciate meeting you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Political Perspectives with the Democratic Party of Lee County. We appreciate you spending your time with us. You can learn more about the Democratic Party of Lee County by visiting www.lecountydems.org. Check your voter registration at www.lee.vote. And see this podcast and all the other great podcasts on the Big Mouth Media Network at www.bigmouthmediafl.com. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.